If you come up with a startup idea, you might wonder, what type of developer do I really need for my startup? Or maybe, what language is the best fit for my project? In today's episode, I'm going to explain what type of developer you need based on the type of project you want to build. Hi, I'm Amaury Khelifi, founder and CEO at My CTO Friend, where founders come to learn how to build their tech startup. With this Startup Snack series available on both podcast and YouTube, we want to share the essential to make it easier for you to build your tech startup. There are many different types of developers, you might know that already, and different types of technologies. For the developers, we talk about backend developers, front-end, full stack. We talk about data scientists and other profiles like no-code developers or UI designers. But even to be more specific, most of these developers' profiles have specific skills and expertise or languages to choose from. For the backend developers, for example, they are PHP, Ruby on Rails, Python, Node.js, even Java. And that's the same type of things for front-end developers like with React or Vue.js, and there are tons of other languages even for the data scientists. So, to fully answer to your question, what developer do I really need for my startup? I'm going to share and to explain what is the classical path of most startup projects. Then I will be more specific depending on the type of project that you want to create. And watch until the end because I will at the end share with you what are the complementary roles required for a developer to do some good jobs. So first off, the type of profile you will need depends on the stage of your project. On the beginning, most of projects need to prove their market, to create the proof of concept. Most of the time, the best option at that stage is to use either the no-code solutions, basically website or mobile application that you can create just by drag and drop. You can also use open source solution and you can use SaaS solution. At that stage, the choice will depend on what technical solution already exists. No need to reinvent the wheel, right? We can find no-code template, for example, that can cost a few $100s that could fit exactly to what you want to build, to what you are looking for. There are templates for Airbnbs, for Ubers, for many types of startup ideas. Same thing for the open source solution. You can find existing open source solution like in e-commerce as example, and tons of plugins that you can assemble all together and bring and connect with each other. And you can customize the interface, modify how it works. You have access to the source code, it's open source. So you can hire a freelancer to tweak them. Or maybe the third solution is to use existing SaaS solution. That's really relevant for e-learning platform as example. Just need to pay a monthly fee and you can have an environment that you can customize where you can put your logo, your colors, etc. Same thing with marketplace. We can find some SaaS solutions for almost everything, e-commerce as well. So the good thing is that you can mix all of them. I mean, no codes, open source and SaaS solution. And most of the time at that stage when you get started, more than a classical developer, what you will need is someone to hack and tweak and customize existing solutions to build your MVP, to build your prototype. After a few months, maybe 1 year or two, you might reach the limits of your prototype, of your MVP. And that's where you might consider creating the long-term version of your product, of a real team with this time, yes, backend developer, front-end developer. So backend is for the server side of your application. The front end will be for the interface side of your application. You might also need a full stack developer, which has basically both skills, back and front. And you can also consider using a UI designer, which will customize and create an interface that is attracting for your customers. So basically, to be even more specific, now I'm going to talk about specific type of project, right? And before to move on, I have one strong recommendation for you. Certainly the best recommendation from this video. You absolutely need to work with people who already did what you want to do. People who already have experience with what you are trying to achieve. That sounds obvious, but this is not. I know a lot of projects where they know the brother-in-law or some friends who know how to code, and so that they ask to develop their concept, etc. But they are not a good fit. You need to choose the technology first and then choosing the developer based on the technology that is the most relevant for your project. So that being said, let's take few project examples to help you understand what you really need and which type of profile is the best fit for your project. Let's take the example of a marketplace. If you want to create a marketplace, most of the time, the best solution is to reuse an existing open source e-commerce solution. And then you will need a developer specialized on that solution. Someone who already master, WooCommerce, PrestaShop, ShareTribe, or whatever marketplace solution fits the best to your needs. If you really want something specific, too complex compared to what exists already, then I would invite you to consider an open source e-commerce backend solution and not the front. So basically the example is with a Reaction Commerce. This use case, the Reaction Commerce, provides you all the backend workflow and database and APIs, everything to handle purchase, sales, and the transaction side of things. And you just have to find a developer to develop the front side of your application, of your marketplace. The second option for a marketplace is to use no-code templates. Again, there are no-code templates for almost everything. You can just buy them for a few hundreds and customize them. One thing about no-code, don't be misled. No-code doesn't mean that everything is easy. The logic behind is still the logic behind a marketplace, and it's still quite complex. So I really recommend you to work with a no-code expert to really help you choose the best template and to customize it. Now, let's take two other examples. What developer do you need for a mobile application? And what developer do you need for a project that requires artificial intelligence? So for a mobile application, most of the time, the best option to get started are the no-code solutions. That's fast. You can easily customize the design and create whatever your logic you want. It's almost like with a classical software language. As soon as your app remains quite simple, without hundreds of screens, which by the way, which should not be your case if you are just getting started, you are good to go. No-code are good to start, but it's a bit more complex to scale. Of course, there are pros and cons in everything. So that's why maybe, I just say maybe, you might consider and you might want to go for proper development right from the bat. In that case, I really recommend you to use cross-platform development. Doing some real development is already more expensive, much more expensive than you're reusing open source solution or to use no code. So do not go for native iOS or native Android development. Use cross-platform so that the same source code will work on both. And honestly, in terms of performance, regarding the performance we have right now in our smartphones, it doesn't really matter at all. Unless if you are a real performance game or something like use videos and really need some native features, in that case, yes. But otherwise, if it's just screens like social media, marketplace, whatever, no need to just go for cross-platform languages. Now let's talk about the server side of your application. You start to know me. I always try to save you time and money. So for the server side as well, we can find some existing solutions. And I recommend you either Parse technology, which is an open source technology that allow you to create backend without coding or almost without coding. Just need to structure the database. And other options are the headless CMS. Headless CMS, same thing. We can structure a relation database, tables, whatever field you want, and then you have an API ready to go. So you just need a front-end developer, a mobile application developer, or if you talk about a website, in that case, a website can also use a headless CMS or Parse. Now, if you need something, again, specific, in that case, I recommend you to use the serverless framework with Node.js. This framework is really amazing because it allows just your developer to drop some piece of code and to put it on the cloud provider, and the cloud provider is going to run it for you. No need to worry about servers, hosting, etc., etc. That's managed by the cloud provider. Now, let's see one more example before to talk about the required roles around the developer. If your project needs or will need at some point to integrate some artificial intelligence, in that case, you will need a specific type of data scientist. So don't start with the one that is going to go head first in machine learning algorithm. That's the best way for you to waste your money and your time because you will have nothing to demonstrate to your clients. Instead, I recommend you to go with someone who masters business intelligence tools, data visualization tools. For example, we talk about Data Studio, we talk about Tableau.com, we talk about Power BI. That's the type of tools that are really, really useful to handle your data, to transform it, and to create beautiful charts and tables that are reusable for you and by your clients. With business intelligence tools, you can easily create a website with private accounts, login, password dedicated to your client as example, and you can give them access to specific dashboards. One more time, in that scenario, the type of developer you will need is someone who already did it, someone who already worked on this type of tools. So I guess now you understand why it's so complex to figure out what type of developer do you need to build a startup. And the best way to figure this out, which type of developer is the best fit for you, for your project, is to rely on two essential roles. The first role is the product manager role. This is a role who helps the founder define the product roadmap, to define what's the smallest version of the product to work on, to start with. This is how you can test your market and start selling sooner your product. And the second role is obviously the CTO role. One of the responsibility of the CTO role is to figure out what's the most cost-effective technology and or existing solution to build your prototype or to build your project. And depending on at which stage you are with your project, right? So therefore, this is on the CTO to help you define what type of developer do you really need and what's the best fit right now for the stage that you are in. So both roles are key to any startups to make the best decision to avoid wasting time and money. And by the way, that's what we do at My CTO Friend. We help you, non-technical startup founders, to become a better product manager, and we provide the tech guidance to identify the shortest technical path for each project. If you enjoy learning with us and want to see more, just consider subscribing. Help us spread the word by hitting the like button and by sharing with your entrepreneur friends. If you have any question and want to suggest a topic, feel free to comment down below, and you can also check out our website to learn more about our coaching program and how you can join.